Now, many people discussing the Prime Minister's decision on what to do about smoking in young people. He made a major speech on Wednesday announcing a plan to phase out smoking, a move he's calling the biggest...
There's been a lot of news recently about a proposed smoking ban, one which proponents argue is the next logical step in our evolution of smoking, from advertising it as being healthy to realizing and getting public consensus that it isn't, and adding warning labels and olive green packaging, to now realizing that maybe we should just ban smoking entirely. Sure, we already have an age requirement of being at least 18 to purchase tobacco products, but if 2/3 of people who smoke or vape say that they started before they were 18, what is this rule doing? And how does this help us towards our goal of creating a smoke-free generation to try and tackle the single largest preventable cause of death globally if they're purchasing it before they're 18? The idea behind these laws, first announced in New Zealand in 2021, and now the UK has decided to follow in their lead, would see the age of buying tobacco products go up by 1 year every year until eventually no one is able to smoke. So anyone born in 2009 or later will never be able to buy tobacco, while those who currently already smoke and are currently likely addicted to it can still continue. But if we're currently worried, and this is the reason why it's come back into the news again, about teenagers vaping, then what is this ever increasing age limit going to do to people who are already buying their vapes at least somewhat illegally? They're probably not being purchased illegally, they're just getting someone else to buy it for them. But how is this going to help? Well, a total ban on tobacco is definitely going to change the situation, but I don't think it's going to help, because what is being proposed here is very similar to what we currently have with the war on drugs and what we had in the past with the prohibition on alcohol. And I don't think you'll find anyone saying that prohibition was a particularly ideal situation. First of all, it didn't really decrease alcohol consumption that much, but also meant that with you now wanting to buy alcohol, you had no idea what you were buying, how strong it was. And in a time when you have to essentially smuggle it around, you're not really encouraged to transport 4 crates of 5% beer. It's going to be stronger, it's going to have more alcohol in it, strengths that we now no longer see of maybe 50, 60, 70%. So this proposed prohibition on tobacco would likely bring with it these similar types of things, not knowing what you are buying or even if it is a vape or a cigarette, but also the other parts of it. For example, with the drug war, one of the things that you can imagine is gang violence, an artificially created danger that doesn't need to exist, which we especially realize is so artificial whenever you think about prohibition, and can't imagine nowadays there being gangs and violence and murder for the transport of alcohol. And so, what are the possible solutions?
Now, from next year, cigarette sales in New Zealand to anyone born after 2008 were to be banned. That was the plan. But now New Zealand's new government says it's going to scrap that.
One idea would be to get rid of this idea entirely, which I don't think is a bad start. Yes, the Prime Minister is being criticised right now for not caring about people's health and being more concerned about the fact that it would deprive the country of crucial tax revenue. Something that isn't entirely wrong in the fact that tobacco products deliver a lot of tax revenue, plus also cost the government less in the fact that people who smoke have an average life expectancy of 10 years less, 10 years in which they won't cost the government in social benefits. But the fact that, and as he also says, that it would likely only serve to fuel a black market for tobacco products. And so I think, although as with everything on the internet, you should clearly trust a random person on it, I think that we should maybe look at the reasons for why people start smoking. Yes, tobacco is addictive. We should definitely not ignore that. But tobacco is not addictive if you're not addicted and using it yet. So why do people start smoking? Or now particularly with teenagers, why do they start vaping? I feel like one of the reasons has got to be that vaping is what people around you are doing and that it's cool. Not necessarily that you want to be the cool kid yourself, it can just be that you want to be doing stuff with your friends. Sure, it can be a cool activity, or it can just be a social lubricant, an activity that you do with your friends. And so I don't know how to fix this. For example, I've never felt the appeal of vaping, nor have I had really a lot of people around me who have vaped, and so I don't have experience of how it's like in such a scenario. I mean, I would also think that being twitchy after a few hours when you haven't vaped, which I have seen with a couple of people, would not be something that is cool, would actively be uncool, but I guess that doesn't seem to be a problem. So I know giving the answer of try to make it less cool is really not a great answer, but it does help you realize that the idea that we were wanting to do of banning smoking does counter that, and the fact that if you're doing something illegal, that is already automatically just a little bit cool. One of the things that you see with drug decriminalization or legalization is that usage often goes up a little bit, but death, which is ultimately our goal with wanting to stop people from smoking, goes down because of safer conditions, knowing what you are actually smoking or ingesting, and also having facilities available to help you quit, which I don't think really fit with tobacco, given that unlike drugs, there is no safe dose for smoking, whereas a big argument can be made that most of the negative effects of drugs are not inherent to the drugs themselves, but the consequences, the social consequences of taking those drugs. So although this message sounds very similar to what you hear the tobacco lobby say of, oh no, we don't know what we're doing yet, we need to wait, we need to get more evidence, and then we never get that evidence because we always need more, I don't think that banning smoking entirely, going back to what we used to do and found out that it doesn't work, is the right answer. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll keep on trying to find an answer.
But if people are well educated about those health risks, they then choose to make the so-called wrong decisions. That's their choice, it's their body. We need to wait 3, 4, 5 years until we actually get proper evidence as to what the effect is.
I'm sure the tobacco industry would like us to wait 3 or 4 years to see what happens, because delay is one of their big tactics.
We're going to have the farcical situation of a 33-year-old being unable to buy tobacco and a 34-year-old being allowed to buy tobacco.
Simon Clark from Forest, which is a lobby group largely funded by the tobacco industry. Good to have you both with us.